magazines. Anybody still get magazines? Only a couple. That's really kind of crazy. You get a magazine? But think about magazines because it's going to come up with eras. Who gets magazines? Raise your hand if you got an idea what I'm getting at. Who gets a magazine? Sam, you raise your hand that you receive one. What is the magazine you receive?
Magazine, and then we also get National Geographic.
Why?
It's interesting.
Interesting to
My family.
you. Now, typically speaking, that means then that people who get magazines are going to be interested in it, educated on the topic the magazine talks about. So it's a shift there in who receives magazines. And it's been a long transition, really, with what they do. But the function of the media. This is our fourth and final chapter of our unit on what? Linkage institutions. The whole goal of the media really should be to link us to the government in some form. Most of the time, though, that we talked about yesterday, you finished looking at it, what is the media really for in a lot of ways right now? The first one, it's mainly for entertainment in a lot of ways. But it also can play another role. The biggest one I want you to think about for us right now in terms of media is this: agenda setting. What is agenda setting? Anybody with an idea there? In terms of a linkage institution, what is agenda setting? Brooke, what do you think?
Well, agenda is like setting plans and basic plans and stuff. So it's probably like about
That is a perfect thing to do if you're not sure. Make the connection of what you know. You know what an agenda is, making plans for something. So how is the media an agenda setter of a linkage institution? They make the plans that they...
They just, so whatever they show you find interest in or take note of.
And specific to, for us right now, in terms of this fitting in with a linkage institution, government. What do we want the government to do? What are our plans for the government? What do they want us to do as well? Because a big part of a linkage institution is not just that all of a sudden we know what's happening in the government, but the government knows what the people are doing. So every morning, one of the first things that President Obama gets is a report of the media. What is happening? And that's not just like his experts with information. I mean, that's newspapers and stuff like that. So the agenda setting. And as politicians, it's not. I'm not just putting it at the high level of the president. It's everybody. Now, one thing that always comes up, and we brought this up, is the media biased. And we're going to take a closer look at it later. But these really play a role in the media. So going back, this would have been ninth grade, conglomerate. You have 1950s, if you remember, when it would have came up. What is a conglomerate? What? Yeah. Okay, take a look at this one. What is that logo? General Electric. And what does General Electric own? Everything. They own so much that has nothing to do with electricity. Because that is a way for them to make more money. They buy other companies and then they make more money. Disney. Disney is a media conglomerate. So let's go. I would imagine that a lot of you know multiple companies they own. What do they own? Let's go with Jordan. What's one thing that they own? What company or channel? You do. I know you do. Not Disney. I'm not saying Disney. I know you know, and I called on you for a reason. Yes. Do you know what they own? I called on him for a reason. No. They own. They bought Star Wars. What type of movie?
Sports movies?
Yeah. You're going the right direction with one of them, but It's a cartoon type. Pixar. They own Pixar. But go back to sports. What else do they own? The Disney wide world of sports means yeah, ESPN. They own ESPN. That's what I was getting at there. That's why you used to go to the wide world of sports, right? That complex. I thought you had. Yeah, no. They own ABC. ABC and ESPN. So those of you who are big college football fans, there is an ABC game at 8 o'clock. There's an ESPN game at 8 o'clock. Those two, if let's say they don't like the way the broadcast is set up, they can just flip it because they own both the companies. So if you ever watch, like on DirecTV, sometimes it'll say like 209. That's ESPN2. Michigan State at Penn State. Then you click on it, and it'll say this broadcast is blacked out on this channel because ABC is actually showing it for the regional coverage. So that is Disney. Viacom, this is, you said Nickelodeon. Somebody else said CBS earlier. Look at everything. Yeah, good luck. See ya. I think there's one Blockbuster or something like that left.
It's not
Okay. But looking at all of these, now that is why if you pay attention enough, you'll see that shows are extremely similar. And then also watch the commercials. If they broadcast a commercial for a show that's on a different network, chances are they're owned by the same company. A&E, Bravo, USA, TNT, TBS. Like, pay attention to those commercials, and you'll see that they might be owned by the same companies. Okay, so let's keep moving with why that impacts us. It's not just television with a media conglomerate. If you look at the Lansing State Journal's website and you click on a link, most of the time, where does it actually take you? And I will go to Mallory here. I saw a lot of reposts and shares from her dad about her swimming season. Where did the article come from? It wasn't Lansing State Journal, actually. It was... Anybody know? USA Today. If the USA Today owns the Lansing State Journal. If you drive by on 96, I think it's 96, yeah, 96, 69, whatever, over, you can see the USA Today Lansing State Journal headquarters. It's on the west side of Lansing, like kind of towards Holt and Grand Ledge. It says Lansing State Journal, USA Today. It's newspapers as well. They own, like, the M Live Media Group. I mean, M Live is like, what, Saginaw, Flint, Bay City, Jackson, Kalamazoo. That's one company that owns all of that information, and it can be a concern then if they are biased. Yeah, Noah?
I was just gonna ask, do you think Rupert Murdoch named his like conglomerate the most generic thing possible, specifically so people wouldn't like look for it?
I don't know. Maybe that's a questionable thing. You know, I think that's worth considering. I don't have any reason to think it's...
News Corp is literally the most generic name.
So News Corp, by the way, this is important for us because we're going to talk about conglomerates and then compare them to this, okay? What are we talking about with these? Mainly the radio stations, the New York Post, and Fox News. What has shifted at News Corp, which is what Rupert Murdoch owns, from this bias that we're speaking about? What is happening here? Other than Noah, what is true about Rupert Murdoch compared to, let's say, Disney? What is Rupert Murdoch? One person. He's conservative, which means he is able to put a little bit more of a conservative view in most of his programming. A lot of the other ones are the more liberal conglomerates. So that's the concern that we're talking about. If the conglomerate is liberal or conservative, are all of the networks that follow liberal or conservative? Sort of, and we'll come back to that. All right, now we're going to go through quickly this. This is one of the first questions that you're actually the first. But just because of the way that the media has evolved, we do have some changes that have happened through technology and then the way that it operates. So we have a protection of the media, which is what? Chase, what protects our media? Meaning they can do whatever they want. That's what I'm saying. First Amendment. Free speech, and then also freedom of the press. That means that we have freedom. People can then make money. In a lot of other countries, it's not that it's brainwashing, but they have government networks. They have government news. So it's not like North Korea, where their like government news is brainwashing. But a lot of European countries do have government news. We have private news, which means, what is the goal of Disney? Make money. Their goal is to make money. As much as you love going and seeing the mouse is there to make money. He's a mouse. Don't change rodents on me. GE is involved to make money. And why do they want to make money?
Because money's cash is king.
Whoa. What is Disney? It's a public company. GE is a public company, meaning you can go buy stock in it. So they're trying to make money, which means they have to do things to make money. And they own a lot. And that's where the bias can become an issue. So the bias can become an issue because if Disney has that liberal slant and they own all these other programs, then you have that. Same thing with Fox News and News Corp. It's going to become conservative potentially. So that does become a little bit of a concern. Now, the first era, and when you go through these, if you haven't yet, it is just a very quick identification of what changed as the periods went about. So the first, way back in the beginning, the first media period. Let's talk about something that you have been exposed to, the media. Well, who wrote a big series of papers, essays about the Constitution? Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, and John Jay, known as the Federalist Papers. Then, on the flip side, there were the Anti-Federalist Papers. It was political parties who were kind of driven to get their information out. And that was a lot of repetition. You know, you think about the printing press, that was tedious. I mean, has anybody ever seen, like, in a museum, like one of those things? And how black they get with ink and everything like that?
Well, they literally have to change the individual letters.
They have to change all the keys. Like, I mean, if they want to spell something and they run that sucker off and they make a mistake, they need to literally change everything to fix that one error. So it was pretty bad. But as things changed there, the media was able to change. The Associated Press comes out. Now, the whole point of the Associated Press, and it still is today, is to send news to everywhere in the country that is the exact same. So you would hope then that if it's the exact same coming from out east to out west or out west to out east, that it's not really slanted and it's very, to the point, very dry. So the Associated Press is in the Argus Press. What you'll see is an article. If there's an article about, let's say, D.C. or something happening in D.C., do you really think that the Argus Press has reporters in D.C.? Or Lansing, for that matter? They are a part of the Associated Press, so they have access to this, and they get that, which all started because of the telegraph, the high-speed presses that just kind of zoomed everything along, and then they were able to ship it out in just very concise, quick information that wasn't really biased. So that changed the way people saw the media, how easy it was to see the media now, because it was quick. It was kind of uniform. But it also opened the door for a little bit more bias. I know I'm getting at the AP, really trying to be concise and part, not partial, but still, we ended up going this direction. with the turn of the century. So what boat am I talking about here with little too quick there. Go back about 18. With the Maine, the USS Maine. Yellow journalism. Remember the Maine. Because then all of a sudden we go to the Spanish-American War. They made money on it. That's what yellow journalism does. They get interest. And by making everybody mad at the Spanish for saying they blew up the war, the publishers, Randolph Hearst and Pulitzer, they worked for a purpose of getting the country upset enough to go to war. And that's exactly what happened. So that is extreme yellow journalism, where it's rooted in such little fact that nobody really questions it, but it just balloons and exaggerates, and then you get the outcome that you want, which is exactly what we had there. The sensational reporting is what we get to. All right, finishing up with the third and fourth. Looking here at the magazines. So that is what I was talking about at the beginning. Sam, why do you get that why do you get that magazine again? It's interesting to your family. And those first magazines, they were informational. The people who found them interesting were the ones who were going to buy them, which meant they also had to be a little bit educated on it. In this time period, looking kind of quickly turning around the 1920s, you had to be educated to receive this. Yeah, Leah? Muckrakers, I'm not exactly sure where that term comes from. That'd be more like any Quiz Bowl people have any idea?
Elkins knows.
She told us.
She's pretty into this time period. Yeah.
It's supposed to be like they're like muck, it's sort of like at the bottom or something. So it's supposed to be like writing for the muck of like
Oh, okay, that makes
business
sense.
or whatever, like truth.
So getting through the crud and getting to the bottom of everything, and that's a muckraker today. I mean, it's just an investigative report. So think of Watergate, and there are two reporters who really went into Watergate and broke the story. That's right here. That they were trying to get through all the crud, all the smoke screens, if you want to call them that Nixon and his crew were putting up, and got to the bottom of the story. That's what a muckraker does. Is they don't deal with the fluff. They want to try to get there. And in magazines, that is what they were. They were informational. They were interesting, and they tried to get to the things they care about. In that case, National Geographic. A lot of times, National Geographic has soft news in there, some feel-good stories. But in a lot of cases, there's a lot of hard news, too, through facts, looking at some serious global concerns. A lot of times it is soft news, too, but it's still interesting. Okay, what has happened to our magazines in circulation?
See a lot of people online.
Way down. They've all went online. They went online. I mean, the last print edition. They've switched, and they've went to online subscriptions for magazines. I mean, you can get National Geographic. I subscribe to that. I can get that on my tablet if I want. I mean, so instead of having the actual print copy, I can just get the magazine on my tablet, which is what a lot of people actually do now when they get their magazines. And the last one, technology changes everything. Technology changes everything. And our first technology, really, I guess, would have to be the quick press, right? But I'm talking electronic technology. And the first one, who or what president, what era, I guess, really benefited from the radio? FDR. He was able to talk to people directly. He was able to talk directly to people during the Depression to boost their spirits. And when he did it regularly, periodically, people would sit there and listen. What did they call him, Michael? Where he would chat to them as they sat beside their fire. Fireside chats. There we go. Nice job. What, Olivia?
So how come in like all the old pictures that you see of people when they're listening to the radio and like the birdies and the birds are all gathered around it staring at it? Like, It's not going to turn into a TV.
Probably because it was so new. I mean, if you were to think about it, probably. But, I guess that would also kind of come to if there was music playing a long time ago, that would be the center of focus, where now it's kind of off to the side. Like if you were to have a stereo system, it'd be off to the side where they had it there. But at the same time, I mean, it's not a TV, but it still has the same functional thing that, let's say you're listening to it and FDR says something you disagree with, start to get a little mad. Then he says something else you disagree with. What are you going to do? You're going to break it? Okay? Or you'll just turn it. You'll turn it off, turn the channel, turn the station, whatever, which is exactly what happens here. Okay, now this continual involvement, the evolution of media, though, has changed the way that the stations broadcast. Okay? And that would be then the narrowcasting. What is a reason for why Fox News is conservative? Beyond Rupert Murdoch. Don't include Rupert Murdoch here. Why does Fox News carry the label that it's conservative? Because their audience is conservative. So they try to have stories that appeal to a conservative audience. That's how they work. And lastly, looking at more with the internet, think about how quickly it changes what people are into. It's immediate, it's specific, and it is completely driven by the person in charge of it. So when you go to your website, it's because you want to read what it says. So think about the websites you choose. You like the way that they talk about things. It's either because of the delivery, you like it to challenge your views, which isn't as likely for most readers, or because it's just entertaining. You choose, you drive the research that you have, and that plays a pretty big role in it. And of course, I mean, think about, now I know Trump and Clinton did a lot of promoted stuff. Like they had tweets that were promoted. They had other things that were promoted. But think of how free it is. Think about when Trump says something, how much attention it gets. Whether you agree with it or not, how free and immediate that is.
Didn't he have like a couple $100 million?
No, I think he's only at like 17 million.
We can look
I think Clinton was a lot less though. And I'm saying millions less, not that, her whatever 10 million were insignificant, but it was significantly less compared to Trump.
That means 17 million people that get to see whatever.
And all of his retweets on top of it, you look at his interactions, it's probably,
Well, a lot of people follow Trump just to see the stupid stuff that he says.
but that is free,
You're still seeing
That's why, how many? 16.3. But it's free. And he uses it to his, and it fully did in the campaign, but to his advantage. And that's exactly what they're after, the free, quick publicity. And obviously it goes pretty well. All right, these are your rules that you were supposed to include as we move towards what they're going to do and how they do it. Gatekeeper, scorekeeper, watchdog. So the gatekeeper is something that I was talking about related to Colin Kaepernick. When did Colin Kaepernick start doing that national anthem thing?
when the outrages. It was after.
No, I mean like specific date, if you remember, or event, because
Wait, no, someone something happened and it was really recent.
His girlfriend's an activist or whatever.
okay, it was recent to some of the summer events, the shootings, but it was NFL preseason. That's what I was getting at.
Oh,
NFL preseason. It is now week 13, I think, which means it's been going on for 17 weeks, and it is still talked about because they continue to decide it's stuff to talk about. Now, if people stop caring, stop talking about it, and I mean on mentions on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, if people stop caring about it, sharing it, retweeting it, whatever, would the media continue to broadcast about it or write about it or put it on their website? No. It is there because they decide that it's still something that's important. They get to follow what people do, but they push their agenda by making it important. So think of it like a gate. If they have a story that they don't think is important, and I'm talking mainly on the national level, what are they going to do? If they don't think a story is important and the story is coming through, what are they going to do with their gate? Close it, and then all of a sudden, boom, that's a dead story. Nobody follows it. And think of the influence that that has on the local stations, the local papers, because they really have to listen to what the national writers and journalists and reporters and TV anchors care about to make it to the local level. Because if they don't talk about it, they close the gate on it, it's dead. Yeah.
I don't always have any question like identifying gatekeepers because the definition online does not explain it like this. So for like another, like what would be another example instead of the column?
So what's something that you haven't heard about in a while? Like what the heck's going on with that issue? The clowns. Why is that not a thing anymore? People just stopped doing it. So the media stopped talking about it. So then it's like selective attention, right? You only think about the things that are immediately in front of you. So if the media chooses not to make it important, it's no longer important. So how about,
I don't believe in influence.
what do you mean? Because why is it that Kanye West is talked about? No. Why is it that Kanye West not finishing concerts and went to the hospital is a big deal?
Because people pay money to go to his concert.
Okay, keep going though with the watchdog. With the gatekeeper. They influence by talking about it, making it a big deal. So people that were never near a concert are influenced because they made it a national issue, and now they're mad at Kanye for taking away money from somebody they've never met and not doing their concert. So it's influencing what is important to people by talking about it. So when we hear about shooters in schools, there was a big push as a gatekeeper for the national media to just stop talking about it. Why are you making this a big deal? Not from it's not important, but don't glorify it. Don't make the people out to be impressive. So change it. Change the way of your story. And that's what a gatekeeper does. Scorekeeper, a little different. That's more about elections. Who is in the lead? Who is bad? This election, it was basically the entire thing was just scorekeeper.
So was the
Bandwagon, getting, who's ahead, who's behind, looking at polls incorrectly, but using polls and everything. Yeah.
So would Trump's tweets yesterday be a scorekeeper issue or gatekeeper?
Scorekeeper issue. So are you asking what he tweeted? What was that? Or somebody's reaction to it? If somebody's reaction to it, it's not like it has to be one or the other. Okay. Like if you're looking at your rules, that would if somebody's talking about it and continues to use it as leverage and that's actually happening with a lot of writing reports, is how it just continually shows that he makes decisions quickly without thinking about the impact of it. Then it becomes a gatekeeper because it's still like an important issue for influencing people. Yeah, that's right. Why is he doing that? Why can't somebody just take his phone and get him to think a little bit more before he tweets? Then it becomes a gatekeeper. Scorekeeper is more like, man, he's gonna keep pushing people away. His reputation, people are already mad at him, blah blah blah, and using it kind of from that approach. Yeah, it's been at the Supreme Court from a few times. Yeah. All right, last thing, watchdogs, just really quick. That's the accountability. Hold the government accountable. Make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. They look for scandals, and not like the juicy, gossipy scandals. I mean, like, they are accountable. Your tax dollars matter. Okay, we'll have more tomorrow.